Daddy, yeah.
Whoo, Army. I know somebody did not come in on one of my posts in my community tab or whatever and try to defend, low-key defend Min Hee Jin and try to shade your girl. Yes, I am going to reply. Yes, I'm going to do this video. Yes, honey. Let's get into it. But yes, I'm gonna give y'all all the goods today. So yes, I did a post, and it's so funny. I did a poll, and I said, "Who's the real villain of K-pop?" And I put Dispatch. I put a picture of Isuman because I know some of y'all don't like him. The granddaddy of K-pop. I did a picture of Min Hee Jin, and then I did a picture of a second generation idol with some crazy hair, and I said, or this person with the bad hair. Or the hairstylist who gave this person this cut. So I was trying to be funny. Most of the time when I do my polls, it's always trying to be funny, you know. So y'all were like voting or whatever. So I was sitting here, you know, going about my day working or whatever. Somebody had to know to be in my comment section. And again, you can read it because I reposted their comment. And again, I don't care if people have different opinions. But we can have different opinions, but we're not going to have different facts. And number two, you're not going to come in my comment section and try to low-key shade me and then tell me a bunch of stuff. So we're going to get into it, but where are my manners? Let me introduce myself. Año, annyeonghaseyo, hola, ¿cómo estás usted? Guten Tag. Hey. Everybody, my name is Nomadic Kitty. Welcome to my channel. Also known as Kiki. That's my regular name. Here in my channel, I said it again, over and over again, we discuss the K-pop industry. We have grown folks conversations here. I do have a shop where I sell merchandise. This is one of my sweatshirts that says, I didn't choose my bias chose me, because I feel like my bias chose me. And so, and also I write BTS fan fiction on Wattpad. I usually try to put links in the comment section. But this channel has been around since January. It's been officially K-pop since January. It used to be a travel channel. I got into K-pop in 2022 casually, and I became BTS Army like around July, August of last year. So I have not been Army for very long. And one of the reasons why I became Army is because of the Min Hee Jin New Jeans thing, because I didn't know anything about HYBE, Bongsook. I didn't know anything about anything, and I didn't know much about BTS. And I went on a journey to figure out who is who and what is what. And that's when I discovered BTS. So that's how I became Army. Okay. So yeah, that's just it in a nutshell. I have a whole video describing how I became Army. But anyway, so again, like I was saying, I did a post, and I post lots of things. I post clips. I post lots of things in my posts. So if you subscribe to my channel, and then also for my members, I do have memberships where I do dish the tea on K-pop a little bit. For those of you, my members, for $1.99, you can see my members only posts where I do talk about K-pop gossip. But I did, like I said, do a post today where I had a little poll. It was a little polly poll. It was fun. And then somebody came in my comment section. You'll see the comment and wrote like 3 paragraphs. Child, honey, they wrote like 3 paragraphs, girl. I was like, okay, I had to stop for a second and look and read. And I was like, okay, well, let me read it again. I read it a few times because first of all, I didn't really understand what they were saying. Second of all, again, they were like saying that first of all, they said, you're young. Child, I was up here gagging. They were like, oh, well, you're too young to remember. Okay. I was like, I don't know whether to be flattered or insulted. I understand that some of y'all think I'm young. Okay, but I'm not. I'm not. Some of y'all who know how old I am, I know I may look young, but I'm not. So the lady who wrote the comment, unless you over the age of 60, then you really not schooling me on nothing, because unless you 60 and over, can you really claim to be my elder? Because honey, I guess that's a compliment, because I'm not young. People who've been on my channel, my live streams, and do a K-pop live stream, I told y'all how old I am. I'm not in my 30s. I'm not in my 40s. Let's just leave it there. Mind your business. Okay, so let's just put it there. So this person was like, well, you delusional fans. Second of all, I tell everybody I have a Delulu fan free. My videos are talking about the industry, about the K-pop industry mostly. I don't have videos about album sales or gossip or reaction videos or reviewing K-pop, K-pop videos. No shade to anybody's doing that. There are plenty of channels out there that do that. I don't do that. I talk strictly about things that are in the news that pertain really to the K-pop industry and what happens in the industry, whether it be with the fandoms or with the artists themselves or inside the agencies. So that's my purview. That's what I talk about. If you were on my channel, you look at my videos, you can see a lot of I have different playlists. The Min Hee Jin New Jeans things, I have a whole playlist. If you go back and see, I've been talking about this for over a year now. So I've looked at court documents. I've watched videos. I've been on HYBE in these HYBE streets. I've looked up a lot of things, a lot of times, done a lot of things. I've talked about this extensively for over a year. Again, that's how I came to be Arnie. So I went down rabbit holes about New Jeans, about Min Hee Jin and everything. So this is not something that just cropped up new on my channel. Those of you who've been on my channel understand I've talked about New Jeans and Min Hee Jin extensively. I also like to say this is not a Min Hee Jin New Jeans safe space. Period. If you are a fan of New Jeans, if you are a Min Hee Jin defender, this is not the place for you. Please, for the love of God and your sanity, please move on, because I will never, ever, ever come up here and defend New Jeans and Min Hee Jin unless something changes. And all my videos are going to be very critically honest. And I like facts over feelings. I like what's said in the court. What are legal arguments? Stuff like that. Not just people's opinions on the internet. I have no feelings about Min Hee Jin either way. I don't know this lady. I don't get emotionally wrapped up and involved in, her. I don't have any emotional hatred for New Jeans or anything like that. I just call it like I see it, and I called it like I saw it over a year ago. I knew what was happening, and I could peep game and see through the things. So this person wrote a comment, and they were talking about the music industry. Well, I'm like, what do you mean? Are we trying to school me on the music industry? School me on the music industry. So let me school you guys a little bit before I carry on, because this person was also talking about the contracts, and what they're saying was factually erroneous. So let me just school you. Let's just back up a little bit about the American music industry, because obviously some of you don't know, have no clue who I am. So yes, let me just school some of y'all real quick, especially the person who wrote the post. You talk about the American music industry. My family is in the American music industry. What are you talking about? My family has been in the American music industry off and on since the 30s. They are still in the American music industry. There is a musician, a blues musician by the name of Lefty Bates, that is part of my family that started. My family is full of musicians, writers, producers, singers, in and out of the music industry for decades, especially on the musicians' end. I grew up in Michigan. I grew up in Detroit. I grew up around family members who were session musicians for Motown. That's where my family comes from. So you want to talk about the industry, about the contracts in the industry. I have had family members that have had contracts that are ripped off by industries. You want to talk about mistreatment. My family, when we started in the music industry, my family members were discriminated against. They were ripped off. They had other artists steal their music on various levels. I have family members who became drug addicts, alcoholics, that have suffered mental health issues, all because of the American music industry. So if anybody want to come to my channel and tell me I don't know the American music industry, it is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Of course I do. My family by marriage is related to a famous family, not the Jacksons, but another famous family by marriage. My mother used to hang, and my aunts would hang out at Studio 54 and do all kinds of things that I've talked about in my live streams back in the day. They were the it girls back in the day, back in the 70s. So yeah, it's kind of like an industry orphan is what they call us. So don't tell me about the American music industry and about mistreatment, even still, about contracts, when I have family members who were thoroughly mistreated. I had a family member that was SA'd by an executive when she was 22 years old. So yes, I have family members in the industry. I know that you cannot come on my channel. I know damn well about the industry. Don't tell me that I don't know. You haven't watched my videos then. Of course, I know about the industry. My family's been in industry. Second of all, the Korean industry. I've said it before in many videos. Again, I have 3 friends that are in the Korean music industry. This person tried to get in my comment section, was like, well, the Korean industry is horrible. Who are you telling? I've never once said in my video that the Korean music industry, I said every entertainment industry is wholly exploitive. I've always championed the artist in any one of these situations, period. I did a video not too long ago about them trying to form a union in South Korea for artists. And I said that that's a good thing because they need it. However, since we're on the contract, we're talking about the contracts. Let's talk about the contracts. You cannot compare the American industry and the Korean industry when it comes to contracts and treatment because South Korea does not have the laws that America has and the protections. Artists throughout the decades, throughout the years, have set legal precedents to where there are certain things that they cannot and they can put in a contract in America because we have contract laws, we have labor laws, we have laws for young people. These things do not exist in South Korea in any strong form. People have been trying to reform the government for a long time. If you think that the agencies are going to reform and police themselves, then you're a fool. Because they're not. They're out there to make money. Just like any industry can be exploitive when there's money involved. And there's no regulations. I'm not saying there's none in K-pop. But first of all, K-pop workers are not considered employees. So all the protections in South Korea that applies to employees doesn't apply. They are considered like there's no classification in America because they're really not contract workers and they're really not gig workers. Because here in our country, we really don't have an equivalent to what South Korean artists are. They're considered something, a designation, I believe it's called like a service worker, which is different, which means they're on a contract, they're paid by a contract basis, and the agency sets the terms and the limits for the artist. There is industry standards, but that's not a law. So until they change the laws in South Korea, if you're not having a legal conversation, the national laws, until you designate K-pop singers as employees or at least common contract workers, there's no conversation to be had. These agencies are not going to regulate themselves. Second of all, the contracts back in the day, 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, were a lot more strict than they are now. The contracts, they have been improvements, there have been changes over the years. Also, when you're talking about the K-pop industry, the big 4 agencies have a better position than the idols and smaller agencies. The ones in smaller agencies are the ones that are truly exploited. They are truly going through. When you work for a small agency, you're truly at the mercy of the small agency, and they don't have the resources, the time, and sometimes the know-how of your management team, your CEO around you to even make sure that you get on your flights correctly or that you even get paid. There have been so many artists that work for small agencies that have been stiffed money that didn't get paid back wages or anything like that. So small agencies really are the ones that need protections. New groups don't have a lot of leverage in any label, period. But in bigger agencies, they are treated, they do have more resources, they do have more freedom. It is more of a uniformity in how the contracts are structured. So again, I understand how South Korean, yes, I do live in America, but I have friends who work in the industry. Do you? Because obviously you don't. Second of all, there are cultural differences in South Korea and the West, of course, which influences the contract either, but you cannot talk about the contracts and changing the contracts or anything without understanding that South Korean law is not going to back it up. As we can see with New Jeans, they lost their case because the number one, the things that they're claiming weren't contract breaches or mistreatment, but also because even certain things that you do claim, the laws in South Korea and the industry, the entertainment industry, is skewed heavily towards the agencies. And there's a reason, and that's money has to do with that. But then also, a lot of times people don't talk about the staff. Behind the scenes, a lot of the staffers are true temp workers, what we would call working through a temporary agency, and they get mistreated as well. They have a little bit more protections, but they don't have 5, 6, 7-year contracts. They get paid once a month, hopefully on time. They are working off the clock. I can tell you that staffers are working off the clock. Staffers are taking K-pop idols' clothes home and washing them on their supposed off days or whatever. So yes, interns don't get treated well, and contract workers don't get treated well. A lot of contract workers in South Korea, some of them are foreigners, and they get paid sometimes whenever we pay you. There's not a lot of regulations when it comes to these temporary agencies like there is in America. So if you want to talk about mistreatment, there's mistreatment all the way around, not just the idols, but then the staff as well. Like I hear this all the time. So in a lot of these companies, especially the smaller ones, use contract workers as staff. They are not permanent employees. And so they don't afford, they have lesser protections than regular employees because they don't want to bring them on regular. They just come there for like the touring season, or they do certain jobs for them, and then they roll over to another agency. That's just kind of how it works for a lot of these people working in the industry. So the staff as well, it needs to change at the staff level as well. And I've said this before in the Idol Union video, that don't forget the staff, because the staff works very, very hard to keep the K-pop machine a-going. So they are the unsung heroes of K-pop. You know, it's not all glamorous and things like that. I know that. I'm not some delulu 20-year-old stan fangirl. I understand that. That's the conversations I have on my channel. And my other issue is, you want to talk about contracts and the K-pop fans. If you guys, if some fans and some people want to get rid of the contract system, I don't have a problem with it. Again, I'm BTS Army. BTS gonna be fine, regardless of whatever they do to the industry. Whether they reform it, tear it up and down, my group is still gonna get contracts. BTS still gonna get their bag, honey. Best believe BTS still gonna get y'all. AT still gonna get y'all's. Can I hear from your 18s? Y'all, we still gonna get ours. Stays, y'all fine. My groups that I like, we're good. TXT still, we are premier upper tier groups. It is the younger groups that need protections. It is the younger groups that get exploited the most. I'm not saying that the system isn't exploitive. It is. But again, the other argument that I always have, that people want to talk about reforming industry, but the things you silly K-pop fans, not all of you are guys silly, but a lot of things that you guys like about the K-pop industry is because of the contracts. Let me say it again for the people in the back. A lot of the things that you guys like about the K-pop industry that you don't like about the West is because of the K-pop contracts. So it is a twofold argument. You get rid of the contracts, I'm all for it. You reform the whole thing, I'm all for it. But what will you have left? You will have an industry that looks like the West. Do you want K-pop to look like the West? That's a question that fans have to ask themselves. Because this is how things would change. You get rid of the K-pop system, you change the trainee system. If agencies are not going to recuperate their costs, the reason why they sign these artists into 5-7 year contracts is because having trainees and doing all these things is an investment. So they put a lot of money up front. Adore put, I think, like $5 million up front. And so they put a lot of money up front. And so how the label makes money and gets money back is they work the idols to death. Now I say this, I'm being glib, but I'm just saying that the idols have to get out there, promote and tour and brand deals. That brings money back to them. Again, on the average, I've said over and over again, when artists first start out, if they're from with a medium or smaller label, those first couple of years, they really don't make a lot of money. That they have to pay back on their advances. They put them in a dorm. The agency takes money out for their dorm, and then whatever's left, give them to them. I covered KG from Vicha, how she was suing JYP and what her contract looked like. And how the fact that she was getting paid on average about $500 a week, even though she was working 10, 12 hours a day, like 6 days a week. The math wasn't mathing. Because again, they don't make a lot of money. So the agency is not going to take a risk and a chance if they understand that they cannot sign long-term contracts. So if you're not going to get your money back, they're going to do what they do in the American music industry, which is sign contracts based on albums, not years. So you have a 2-album deal. So the first album do good, okay, we're going to sign you for 2 more albums. So maybe 2, 3 albums, and we'll see how it does. If that second or third album don't hit, Then they're like, okay, well, that's all 3 albums, we're done. And then the group, what, gets disbanded or whatever. K-pop groups are not self-sustaining. K-pops are groups. In America, it's individual singers. It's much easier to maneuver about a contract as an individual than it is a group. A group, you sign a group contract. Everybody has to agree to the terms. Everybody is getting paid the same amount. Yes, there are tweaks and kickbacks and bonuses and stuff like that. That is different than being an individual artist like in America where you're an individual artist. If agencies have to get rid of the contract system and they end up having to treat artists as real workers, that means they have to pay them overtime, they have to pay them wages, they have to work certain times, there's limits, then it's going to limit how much money the agency can make. I mean, that's just a real honest conversation. And so it takes a lot of staff to run a group. In America, if I'm an individual artist, the hair and makeup person is on contract. They're not employees of CBS or Warner Brothers. They're contract workers. So they contract to have hair and makeup people come in. If I'm an individual, the whole group ain't getting their makeup and hair done. The whole group ain't going to wardrobe. That costs money. All that costs money. To have a group costs money. If I'm an individual and I lose my contract and I can try to go on to another agency where they sign me, or I can go independent, go to an independent label or do it independently. It's easier to maneuver. What I'm saying is, as an individual artist, than there is a whole damn group. That is harder. It takes a lot more money to do that. They have hotel costs, food costs. So the agency right now are fitting the bill for all that, and they want an return on their investment. If you revamp the system, and I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it can be done. I'm all for it. But again, what y'all love about K-pop, y'all like the comebacks. There's some groups have 2-3 comebacks in a year. If you take away some of the contracting, they wouldn't have that. If you put limits on their labor and all that, you wouldn't have 2 or 3 comebacks a year. They would do like Western artists do, which was release an album every other year. You wouldn't have all of these festivals and fan meets at this breakneck speed. You wouldn't have all of that. This artist is at this event, and they're at this event, then they're online. And they do all of that because it generates income and money, because the agency desperately needs them to generate money. But if the agency cuts back their budgets, they can't fly them around from China to Japan to America and here, there, everywhere, and take all this staff and all these people with them. They're not going to be able to do that. It's just logistically doesn't make any sense. So basically, if you add more protections to the artist, the industry will become more like the American industry. You won't have artists around for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The bigger labels would dominate even more. That's why we don't have a lot of small labels here. South Korea has tons of small labels. They have tons of small groups. Some of them get one hit song, they hit it big, they blow up. That's opportunity. But again, I don't like the fact that the industry is flooded with new groups. I don't like it. It works out for me. Again, I don't have a problem with the Korean industry becoming the Western industry, but people in Korea understand that for the staff, they will lose their jobs. They understand that. If they go strictly to a contract worker situation, they're going to be here, there, everywhere, and they're not going to have any level of stability. And like I said, I'm not saying it can't be done and it can't be tweaked. It can be. But I'm just saying for the fans, the things that y'all like about K-pop, you're going to have it would disappear. It would change. You would have one-hit wonders. You would have groups here for 2-3 years and then they gone. How are groups going to build this parasocial fan base that y'all love in K-pop? Again, I'm here for it. I'm saying that the industry don't need these things. I'm saying that the industry does need to change. But the thing about it is, to me, on some level, the fans don't want it to change. The fans still want to be able to carry around as a K-pop fandom, but then they do want things to be better for the artists. But I'm telling you, you can't have it both ways. It's not financially feasible or viable. The agency is not going to keep footing the bill if they don't get a return in their investments. And they're not going to sign 7-10-year contracts if they know that their artists are going to have limits on their labor. And that's just the truth. And that's just the truth of the business. And again, I'm here for it. I don't mind the industry becoming more like the West. Y'all know I've said that before. I don't have any issues with that. But K-pop fans have issues with that. You're not going to have access to these people all the time. They're not going to be on Weverse all the time. And all this other stuff that may affect that as well. They may be out there selling more and more and more merchandise. It will be more merchandise heavy. There will be more push. I can think there's a bunch of things that happen. There'll be for another time, another video. But yes, if the K-pop industry went to a more of a Western model, it would truly change the industry to look like it is in the West. And again, some K-pop fans of us, we don't mind it, but I understand that a lot of K-pop fans, y'all like the fact that y'all are, especially the ones who are in smaller groups, to build a fan base and then become bigger and do award shows, that y'all want to build a fan base from the ground up. And it's hard to do that when these artists aren't in 5, 6, 7 year contracts. So you're going to have artists that are just not going to be making as much money. And then that affects the trainees. Why would the trainees sign up knowing that there's no guarantees? I mean, there's no guarantees they're going to get in a group, but why would trainees sign up knowing damn well that they're once they do get in a group, they're going to last a couple of years? That's not going to fly with the artists as well. And I'm going to get to Min Hee Jin in a moment. Let me add one last thing about contracts that people don't seem to realize. When Lee Soo-man created, I'm doing a whole video deep dive about SM Entertainment and Lee Soo-man, who is Lee Soo-man, if you don't know, he was the chairman, founder of SM, and he actually started the whole K-pop system. Lee Soo-man was a singer and a DJ in South Korea. He went over to America in the 90s and he studied American entertainment, and he got with people, American executives, and he learned everything that he learned in America. When I talk about K-pop contracts, I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again. This is not my opinion, this is fact. There is nothing new, okay? There's nothing new under the sun in K-pop. I know some of y'all don't know the history of American entertainment, of American music industry. I do. If you look it up, the photo cards, Motown started that. Lee Soo-man took a lot of things from the American movie and the American music industry and just put it together and then added his own uniformity to it because of budget reasons and necessity. So when you talk about the contract system in South Korea, it is the old studio contracts from Hollywood. It is nothing different. Back in the day, studios would find starlets and male stars, and they would sign them to a picture or either a year's 5-year contract, or we're going to guarantee you 10 pictures or 5 pictures or whatever it is. Okay. Some of the up and young and coming people, they would sign them to contracts for various years and they would take them. Okay. Then does this sound familiar? They would take them and give them vocal lessons if they were going to be in musicals. Musicals were a big deal back in Hollywood. So in old Hollywood, they would give them vocal training. They would give them dance training. They would make them lose weight. Y'all do know that diet pills was a big thing back in the past. I'm a huge fan of Judy Garland. Huge. Obsessed with Judy Garland when I was younger. I love old Hollywood. I was obsessed with old Hollywood as a kid. Back in the day, yes, they would have them lose weight. They would give them these unprescribed diet pills because they wanted the ladies to be a certain way. Back in the day, the Warner Brothers and all these movie houses, these movie industries, they would send them off to Mexico or to California to go get plastic surgery. Does that sound familiar? A lot of the old Hollywood stars had plastic surgery. Korea didn't invent plastic surgery. Korea didn't invent crazy diets. Korea did not invent slave contracts. These were an old Hollywood system. The music industry, when you look at K-pop, you will see old music industry. You will see Motown if you know what you're looking for, if you know about the history of our industry here. When Lee Soo-man loved R&B music, he loved soul music. So when you see K-pop and there's groups, girl groups and guy groups, that's Motown. Motown perfected that system. The groups wearing matching outfits, Motown perfected that system. Like I said, the photo cards. People don't know. People think K-pop invented this. There is nothing new in K-pop under the sun. They did not invent the contracts. They didn't even invent the trainee system. Old Hollywood, they would bring in vocal coaches and dance coaches. By the 90s came when Lee Soo-man was going to America, they had got out of that. But he still talked to the old heads, the older people who have been in the industry. Lee Soo-man knew the history of our industries. He took what he knew and he made it uniform. So back in the day, in the 90s, people would send in demo tapes and they would come audition. Lee Soo-man is like, that costs money and resources. He didn't have those resources to have multiple auditions. He didn't have a bunch of staff to listen to multiple demo tapes. So he got in his mind, why don't we have an audition and we just have auditions? So they would have auditions at hotels and whatever they could afford. Warehouses, they would have auditions. But then when they got the talent in there, they realized that people were at different levels. Some could sing, some could dance, some of them were already in bands. Some of them had, theater backgrounds, and some of them couldn't sing, but could dance. You know what I'm trying to say. So some had some of this, some had some of that, some had none of that. Some of them had a lot of potential. And so in America, what the labels would do, they would work with the people individually to bring them up to speed. But Lee Soo-man said, we ain't got money for that. We ain't got money to work with these people individually. I don't have the staff. I don't have the money. Wait. Why don't I put them in a group? So I will take you guys, you bunch of guys have potential. So there's about 10 of y'all that have potential. There's 10 of y'all young ladies. Why don't I put y'all in a group and train y'all as a group to get you all up to speed to where all of you guys will at least be kind of at the same level. It's genius, it's efficient, and it's easier. So instead of doing individual talent acquisition, he did group talent training and group talent acquisition. And that's how the trainee system started. But again, it's not like he invented these systems. It's not like he invented training artists, vocal training, dancing, music training. It's not like South Korea invented plastic surgery and tweaks. They've been doing that all a long time before. So I have to tell you guys, don't get it twisted. South Korea didn't invent anything about their music industry. They took everything from America. So when you're having a conversation about contracts, you're also having a conversation about what used to go on in America in these contracts. And those old Hollywood contracts, they couldn't get out of those contracts either. People broke the system to make it better. That's why Hollywood don't do these studio contracts anymore. So if you look it up, it's there. Studio contracts. Hollywood don't do that anymore. It became problematic. People started to sue. People wanted out of their contracts. It became too problematic. They didn't want to be wrapped up in litigations. So they just did away with the old Hollywood contract system. The music industry still had those kind of contracts, and it became too much of a problem for them as well. And there's been contract situations and things throughout the years. Again, this person who did this post on my channel brought up Britney Spears. Britney Spears is not a contract conversation. It is a family conversation. Her family got conservatorship over her and stole her money. That's not the industry. That was her family. Again, the contracts in America are not the contracts like they were 50, 60 years ago. They have changed. There is some janky things going on about them giving you advances and stuff like that. But here in America, the difference is you can litigate that. You can get out of your contract easier in America than you can in Korea. And why? Because we have legal precedents. We have the laws here for it. But everything that New Jeans claim, they wouldn't be able to get out of the contract even here in America. But the laws have changed here. The laws are different here. There are certain things that you cannot sign and cannot do in a contract that would be considered unlawful, that in South Korea would just be considered normal. So that is the problem. Now we're going to talk about Min Hee Jin and people saying that Min Hee Jin, there are other people out there trying to champion Min Hee Jin. And I say it before and say it again. If you're a Min Hee Jin sycophant or apologist, my channel is not a safe space for you, because I will never, ever, ever champion Min Hee Jin. It's not nothing personal. I don't know this lady. It's nothing personal against New Jeans as well. All I can go by is the actions that are in court records and documents and cacao chats, how Min Hee Jin has acted. And so to me, it's facts over feelings. I don't care what narrative people try to craft online. I'm not reading the tea leaves. I'm not reading in between the lines. I read what Min Hee Jin has said and wrote, and she said and wrote a lot of things in this past year and a half, and all of it is foul to me. There's no way I can ever justify certain things that she did. So number one for me, the number one thing that makes me angry for Min Hee Jin, we're going to get into it. But there's one glaring thing that I promise you that people don't really think of that's going to blow your mind. It's something that I didn't notice until like a couple of weeks ago. So Min Hee Jin will never get my support because, number one, I am an executive. I work in corporate America. I've worked in corporate America a long time. The things that I've seen from Min Hee Jin, the way she wrote and the way she talked to people was just foul. Was just foul. There is no way as a woman I as an executive that I can defend that. The things that she wrote in those cacao messages, the way that she carried herself in these press tours or these, it was unprofessional at the least. At the least. Let me tell you what, in my opinion, what kind of person Min Hee Jin is. First of all, Min Hee Jin is, to me, reminds me of one of these people, one of these women that you get a woman manager and you're all excited because you're like, yay, girl power. And then when you get that manager, you realize she's worse than dudes. That's the kind. There are people out there who are management co-workers or whatever. Y'all, some of y'all are shaking your head because y'all have experienced this. Where you will get somebody that's your same gender, your same background, or whatever, your same race, and you're in a dominated field by others. K-pop is the executives are a male-dominated field, right? So she's the type of person that you, in my opinion, you work with, and you realize she's worse than the guys. I've had female bosses like that. I'm thinking, oh my God, a female boss, maybe they would be understanding. And it turned out that a female boss was worse than the men. That she felt like she had to, my old boss from a long time ago, felt like she had to overcompensate because she was a woman. So while other managers, male managers who were cool, and I'm like, well, their team did this and they did that, she was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing it. She was always insecure about her position being there as one of the women executives. She was always insecure about that. And she took out her insecurities on other female employees. She took out her feeling of inadequacy on other female employees. You will find this in many different communities. You will find this in Black and brown communities. Some of y'all are shaking your head. Y'all have experienced it. Min Hee Jin had this. These are facts, not feelings. Min Hee Jin had a female worker underneath her file litigation and file complaints, and the court records are out there, that she was being harassed by Min Hee Jin's VP at a door. Min Hee Jin wrote in cacao messages, I hate working with bitches. Not making this up. That's what she said. She complained about this lady. She said she whined too much. So I don't know what girl power bullshit y'all talking about Min Hee Jin. Because Min Hee Jin, there is no... Please put it in the comments where Min Hee Jin said in any cacao message, anything, any court cases, any interview. I watched her interviews where she was like, rah, 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 solidarity, girl power. Min Hee Jin has been in interviews where she talked about herself. She talked about new jeans. She talked about herself in new jeans. She talked about her background, her expertise. All of that is fine. I don't know why anybody could get and fix their mouth anywhere to talk about Min Hee Jin as some feminist something. Just because you are female and you got female parts and you are intelligent and you work in that area does not mean you give two shits about women. I would all be for Min Hee Jin. If Min Hee Jin would have came out swinging talking about, I'm trying to make things better for the industry. I'm trying to protect young people in the industry or young ladies or other female executives. Min Hee Jin has never once said anything anywhere. Please give me the links. Show me the evidence where Min Hee Jin has talked anything about changing the industry. Give me the links. Put it in the comments section. Where has Min Hee Jin said anything about the business being exploitive and she wants to do things better and she wants to change the industry? No. I look for that. I was like, well, maybe I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I was like, well, maybe she's trying to change the industry. Min Hee Jin has never said that. I use this analogy. It's like being a slave. And there's one person who's going to stand up and do the slave revolt. Okay, we're going to revolt. We're going to take them down. And he's standing up there talking about, we're going to take down the slave masters and we're going to revolt. And all the other slaves are like, yeah, we're going to revolt. So the slaves, they get together, they revolt. They take all the masters. They get rid of them. They kill them, do whatever. They take over the plantation. They're like, it's us now. Now we don't have to be whipped anymore. We don't have to starve anymore. We can, work. We don't have to work sun up to sundown anymore. We don't have to do anything anymore. Now we can chart our own course. But then the person who leads the slave rebellion walks into the plantation, walks into the master bedroom, turns around and says, y'all motherfuckers better get to work. Well, yeah. Y'all better get to work. Don't y'all think I need to get out there in them fields? Again, Min Hee Jin was an overseer who wanted to be a master. She wasn't trying to change the system. She wanted to be the system. There is nothing that Min Hee Jin had ever said, even in those cacao messages to her shaman, that she was trying to do anything to make the business better. Min Hee Jin is going to start her own agency. She's starting her own agency. She got the building being built, and she's gonna get. I know some of you guys are mad to hear about it. She's gonna get trainees and everything, and I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna do a video and I'm gonna be like, oh, I thought Min Hee Jin was trying to change the industry. I thought we were mad, like the person who posted said, well, you guys are just mad because Min Hee Jin is trying to change. Min Hee Jin wasn't trying to change what system? She's been in the system. She's worked at SM for a long time. Did she change anything at SM? No. Did New Jeans ever do any interview or anything saying that they were trying to change the industry for the better? I'll wait. Let me answer. No. I've went through court documents, everything. I've even went through some of their social media stuff. They the same girls that came out and said, well, the industry wants us to be revolutionaries. They weren't trying to change the system. They were just trying to make things better for them. It was self-serving. Min Hee Jin, if she would have came out and championed the industry and said, I just want to make things better for everybody. No, Min Hee Jin was an overseer that wanted to be a slave master. Once she get her agency, I want to see what her contracts look like. Y'all think Min Hee Jin not going to have the same contracts? Y'all mean to tell me that Min Hee Jin go get an agency and is she gonna get them more? Is she gonna get her artists more of a percentage? Are they gonna be working 8 to 10 hours a day? Are they gonna have breaks? Y'all think Min Hee Jin is gonna do anything different at her agency that HYBE, JYP, YG, Cube, whoever, KQ doing anything? You think Min Hee Jin gonna do something different? This is her opportunity. She's starting her own agency. Y'all think them contracts gonna be any different? Again, a year from now, I'm gonna come back and do a follow-up video, and I'll be like, so where's the revolution at? Where's your great feminist goddess at? Min Hee Jin ain't never been a feminist. She don't talk like a feminist. She don't act like a feminist. There's nothing. She called New Jeans bitches. She called one of them fat. Then she like, well, I was just frustrated. I can't go to work and talk like that. Even with my coworkers. But that's okay for you to talk like that? That's crazy. That's crazy. Like the way she talk about people and to people, it's foul. It's abusive. It's not professional even at the best. It's not even professional. Professional people don't talk like that. She up here, I saw before, Min Hee Jin be talking straight reckless. You can get business done. You don't have to talk like that. I get business done. I can't go to work and talk like that. The fact that she was allowed to get away with it is a miracle within itself. So no, I'm not going to support New Jeans. I'm not going to support Min Hee Jin. She's not some feminine champion. She didn't talk to women. She talked to women like they're dogs. She dog walked these chicks behind their back. Remember, she said she didn't like working with female groups. Min Hee Jin, I don't think she even liked women. And what really blew my mind, y'all, number 2 thing I have to say why I never support Min Hee Jin, because even though we could say a lot of what was said in those messages, a lot of her rhetoric and things was said in messages, but y'all know what was absent from those messages? All those cacao messages, all those court documents and her court statements, and after me reading this, it just dawned on me just the other day. I said, you know what's absent? There's a lot in here, but what's absent is compassion. I didn't read not one damn statement. Whether she's messaging her shaman, the VP, the parents, whoever, any compassion from Min Hee Jin. Not one message I can look to so far that's been released. Not anything she's ever said in court that was ever endearing. Show me what? I'm reading her court stuff today. Nothing she has ever said in court was ever kind, was ever endearing. Fuck about anybody. She ain't never said nothing nice about nobody. She didn't ever say those messages, you know what? She didn't tell the shaman, look here, shaman. Look here, shaman. Maybe I need you to put a protection spell on my girls. You know, protect them and keep them lifted up. You know, even that. She didn't ask the shaman to do no protection. Everything, it was about Min Hee Jin and her ambitions. It's about me. This is delayed. That is, I don't like this. I don't know what's going on here. I was promised this. I was promised that. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. There's nothing wrong. But the way Min Hee Jin went about it was foul. But I didn't hear anything out of all those messages that we have read. After all these videos that HYBE has done, did y'all ever remember Min Hee Jin saying anything compassionate or endearing? I really care about these girls. I really don't want to see them delayed. I really care about their parents. I'm really trying to look out for them. Because even though in the recent court stuff, she admitted that she could have resigned. But she didn't resign because she wanted to take Adore and New Jeans with her. She got greedy. Min Hee Jin could have been resigned. And again, not my opinion, court case. She said, well, yeah, I could have resigned, but I stayed because of New Jeans. No, she didn't. She didn't even like them. She called them annoying. Brats. Bitches. Like, I keep bringing that up all the time. These were minors that she was calling this. So these are people that apparently she was being nice to their face. She's two-faced it. And then behind their back talking mess about them. Oh, if I got to deal with them all day, yes. Talking about, well, I was just, Min Hee Jin, seems like you're frustrated a lot. Because she talks a lot of ish. I'm like, so you're frustrated literally all day, every day. These messages is just her upset and her scheming and her mad about. I'm like, where is the joy? Where is the caretaking and the compassion in these messages? Where is, I'm really frustrated. I can't believe HYBE is doing this. And I'm not getting along with the Source Music CEO, but I'm really about protecting the girls. I'm really trying to protect these girls. None of that was said in the message. Or I feel like, these girls this is their debut. They're messing up their debut. None of that was said. All was said was, my label was supposed to be here and I'm supposed to have this group and it's supposed to be up and why are we being delayed and we need a debut and blah, blah, blah. That's all that was mostly said. It was nothing like any kind, any care, any compassion in Min Hee Jin's statement. That's what was missing out of everything that was said. Go back and read those messages. And it's not what was in there, it's what was missing. There was no kindness in these messages. There was no sense of fairness. There was no sense of like, I'm being mistreated. I feel like the girls are being mistreated. She didn't even say that. Things are delayed. Okay, Min Hee Jin been in K-pop for a long time. She understands that group debuts are going to be delayed. Things are going to be shuffled around. The things that she was describing are things that happen in the business all the way around. Nobody's ever put out that context. So you got to have some context. And again, she is the CEO of Adore, not of HYBE. She is the CEO, yes, of Adore. Min Hee Jin act like she wanted to run everything, and she knew that wasn't the deal at HYBE. She knew that. I find it very disingenuous, her comments. Disingenuous, because her comments are misleading. To act like Min Hee Jin is stupid and she didn't know what it was, she's been in the business long enough. She understands that there's going to be delays, there's going to be pushback, there's going to be things that happen in the business. She had dealt with that at SM. Now, come on now. Then she get to HYBE and all of a sudden what? She's offended because things have slowed down and it was right for her to offer criticisms and get source music and bang shook in a meeting and talk it out. That's what you're supposed to do as an executive, as an adult. But the things that she was doing behind closed doors that act like it wasn't working fast enough for her. Things weren't going on her schedule. So she was upset because things weren't going the way she thought they were. And she wanted to have control. And I don't have any problem with that, but that's not the way to do it. It wasn't her company to have control. People act like Min Hee Jin was entitled to something. She wasn't. She was brought in. She wasn't entitled to run Adore. Adore wasn't a company she founded and then she sold to HYBE. Then I can understand. She came over, was hired as a CEO to be a CEO of a company that's already been formed and paid for and invested in by HYBE. People act like Min Hee Jin she had a right to do whatever. She didn't have a right to do shit. She was an employee just like the rest of them head of them CEOs. They understand at the end of the day that HYBE is the parent company. Min Hee Jin, to me, did not understand the pecking order, or didn't want to understand. If she didn't want to go along with that, that's fine. But she to cut her ties, she could have left. She could have left at any time during all of this. But she drugged this out. And so that brings me to number 3, the allegations of mistreatment. You can go online and read the list of allegations. There's nothing that New Jeans experienced that were mistreatment. There's nothing. Legally speaking, that would fly here in America, and sure in the hell didn't fly because the judge sat there and wrote a 45-minute thing about why they weren't mistreated and why ignoring someone in a hallway, not getting a brand deal, going to somebody else. Unless these things are specifically in your contract, then that's not mistreatment. It's not real. And again, there is a real contract dispute that is going on that just ended right before New Jeans. It's been going on since 2023 between EXO and SM Entertainment. Nobody talked about this court case. EXO was one of the biggest premiers groups in South Korea, boy band. And 3 of their members sued SM, and they've been in litigation since 2023. Did you know that? A lot of people did not know that. I talk about it all the time. Everybody's paying attention to the door at New Jeans SM when the members of EXO had valid reasons to sue their contract. They did claim overwork hours. They did claim that they weren't getting paid their proper percentages. They did have valid reasons that SM was leaving them high to dry when it came to promotions, when it came to their solo projects. They had valid reasons, and guess what? They lost because it was not in their contract. So people can have an opinion and spin a narrative all you want to, but at the end of the day, for me, it's the legality of it all that I pay attention to. It's the legality. I don't care what people feel, how their feelings are. Again, facts over feelings. There's not a lot of nuance. People say, oh, well, there's nuance. No, there's not. Either it's legal and it's lawful or it's not. If it's in your contract or it's not. Again, I love BTS. If BTS tried to pull this, I'd be like, well, is it in their contract or not? If it's not in their contract, I'd be like, sorry, sugar, I love you, but you don't have any legal recourse to get out of your contract. Like I said, even if this was my group, I would not support something unless I know that they have tentative grounds for claiming mistreatment or breach of contract. If BTS are saying that they didn't get their Evian water and they were promised a private plane and then they didn't get some branding deal that somebody else got it, those are not mistreatment. Those are not breach of contracts. If they're saying that they didn't get paid, if they said they were physically harmed, if they were saying that some things went on emotionally, if somebody was trying to do something strange for a piece of change to them, then yes, those are things that would be constituted as breach of contract. Not the stuff that New Jeans claim. That I can't get with that. I don't care what group it is. Because again, I'm a legal person. I'm like, what does the law state? What does the contract state? And last but definitely not least, the most important part of all of this is, to me, in my life, it's not what you want. It's not what you say. It's how you say it and how you do it. That is a motto I live by in my life. Period. When Min Hee Jin was accusing Islet of plagiarism and Le Seraphim calling them the princesses or whatever, again, I say it before and I will say it over and over again and beat this dead horse. She did not have to bring the group's names into it. She could have been mad at the creative director. She could, because again, Islet has no control over their concept. They were a rookie group. But of course, then again, in the court it said that she targeted them on purpose. But poor Islet The groups didn't have, especially rookie group, have no control over when they're going to debut and their concept. Okay? If she had a problem with that, she should have went to Source Music. She should have went to the creative director and didn't try to work that out. Whoever, whatever, worked out. And if it didn't work itself out, she could have left it well enough alone. There is no evidence. I'm going to say it again. There's no evidence that Islet plagiarized New Jeans. I looked at the concepts. The courts have said over and over again, there's no thing. She made this up. Repeat. She made it up. She had employees at a door go online and drag this group in comment sections, underneath videos, in Reddit groups, all over social media. That is not the way somebody acts. That is not professional. That is unfucking professional. Number two, that's evil. And number three, if you care about the industry, you don't do stuff like that. She knew on some level, in my opinion, she had to know that this was going to destroy this group. This was going to not only destroy this group, but spill off into the fandom, into the industry. That it's going to negatively impact the industry. And you mean to tell me that Min Hee Jin wants changes to the industry? How you going to want changes to the toxicity of the industry and you toxic? How are you going to talk about the industry and Min Hee Jin wants the best for the industry when you are pulling public stunts and tricks and pussy pops? How are you a champion for the industry? How are you a champion for women when you're tearing down young ladies? When you are literally making up ish in court. In court. You're making up things. But you some sort of feminist icon? For who? Where? Then LE SSERAFIM. They had nothing to do with their debut. Why would you feel the need to put the group's name in it? That's one thing I cannot forgive. I don't care if Min Hee Jin go on a whole redemption arc. I don't care if Min Hee Jin saves BTS from a drowning ferry. I'm like, thank you for saving my boys when the ferry went down, Min Hee Jin. I appreciate it, but you still a snake and I get on. Like, I'm never going to get over that. The fact that these are other fellow artists that New Jeans knew and hung around with. She knows the business. Min Hee Jin knows how tough the business is, especially for young ladies. You want to talk about feminism, especially for young ladies. Min Hee Jin didn't give two rats patoots about what happened to Islet and LE SSERAFIM. She didn't care. What was all that femininity girl power shit then? She didn't care. I will not forgive that. That is unconscionable. In this industry where there's so much mental health problems, it is inconceivable for me for a woman to do this to other young ladies, knowing how hard it is to be in this industry. You want to talk about femininity and girl power? That there is no way in hell if she was thinking about the industry or anything other than herself that she would have done that. That is unforgivable to me. That is unconscionable. I can't get with that. I can't. There's no New Jeans, Min Hee Jin ass kisser can provide me an explanation for that. Even if she thought Islet was plagiarizing, even if she thought LE SSERAFIM was getting better treatment, you take it internally. There's no reason why Min Hee Jin should have had employees at a door online setting an online drag campaign. That is unprofessional. That is messed up. And that, I believe, was her downfall. Somebody snitched on Min Hee Jin, because that's why they brought forth that audit. But somebody snitched on her. I don't know who snitched on her, but somebody snitched on her, which they should have. That is foul for her to do that. Now, if the fans came up and said, look, we think that, this plagiarism is going on and this is how we feel, I can understand this is organically from the fans. But this was not, there's proof that this was not organic. This was not the fans. The fans didn't start this. Min Hee Jin did. The narrative with LE SSERAFIM and their death threats. Min Hee Jin started that narrative. The fans didn't start this. This was nothing organic. So I can't get with that. I can't forgive that. I can't understand that. I can't get with that. There is nobody has ever been able to, all the New Jeans fans I've messaged back and forth with, no one's ever given me an excuse for that. She didn't have to bring these groups' name into it. She could have left the names of the groups out and just been like, some group we feel is copying us. She could have took it internally. She didn't have to go to the press. But Min Hee Jin, that's what she does. She wants to use the press to get her way. The same stunts and tricks and flips and the same things that happened to BTS a long time ago is the same things that were happening to Island and LE SSERAFIM. And I'll stick to that. I will stick to that. I will beat that drum and beat that dead horse because it is too eerily similar. So no, Min Hee Jin wasn't trying to change the industry. She's never said she was trying to change the industry. When she starts her own company, let's see if she tries to change and do anything different. I doubt it. Min Hee Jin understands what the system is. She understands the system is more in favor of agencies and executives than it is artists. She doesn't want the system to be shook up or anything. Never. So for me, she's not some champion. She's part of the problem in the industry. And the industry has problems that need to be fixed. But again, like I said, I'm all about fixing things. I'm all about solutions. And I want the industry to be better. And I want the industry to be safer for artists, especially young ladies. Because in some ways it's not. But using Min Hee Jin as lifting her up some way, that's not it. That's not it. She's not that person. There may come a day where there will be that person, but so far they have not shown up. So again, the laws are going to have to be changed in South Korea first in order to change the contracts. And then you will get progress. Until the laws don't change in South Korea, not much will change. You have to change the laws first. You have to have a legal foundation for contract change. Because the agencies are not going to do this themselves. The agencies are there to make money and stock options. They are not there at the behest of the artists. Yes, they respect the artists and they take care of their certain artists and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the music industry is an industry and they're there to make money. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to let you guys go. Make sure you put it in the comments. Again, if you're a Min Hee Jin, New Jeans sycophant, we can agree to disagree, honey. That's fine. But don't come on my channel and tell me what I know and what I don't know and where I've been. You obviously haven't been paying attention. That's where I draw the line at. We can have different opinions. That's fine. But we can't have different facts. And you sure in the hell ain't going to come on my channel and tell me about anything about myself because the people who subscribe to my channel, they know me pretty well. Like y'all know where I've been. Y'all know where I come from. And if you didn't know, you watched this video. Now you know. So no excuses. So don't do it. If you're going to, you got to get up pretty early to tangle with me intellectually, period. I mean, I'm not trying to flex on y'all, but I know a lot of things about a lot of things. And again, I know a lot of things about the industry that I don't say. I don't come out here because I want to protect people's privacies, people's anonymity. I'm not a gossip channel. I just try to give you guys hint. I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a psychic. But a lot of things that I've been talking about for months and months and months, you guys are now finally seeing. It's finally coming out. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Like, share, subscribe, comment. And until another time, another video, you guys have a good day.